Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Healing Lifestyle Podcast. My name is Shanda Domango Brown, your host, Ancestral Medium and Movement Healer. And we are bringing you everything healing as a lifestyle, whether you're navigating motherhood, entrepreneurship, or just straight up existing. We're bringing you rituals, remedies, tools, and practices on how to navigate that while you still living your life. So, listen, Linda, I am super excited because today's guest, we have the one and only Krystle Sims-Cameron. So I met Krystle during um, a residency that I'm currently in at the Material Institute in New Orleans. Shout out to the 24 Karat Garden. And Krystle, during our cultivation semester, was my teacher. And I learned this woman, y'all. Let me tell y'all something. The way this woman can lead a class and get you excited about propagation and
Thank you.
eating from the earth, but really
Mm,
understanding its importance, understanding its impact, and understanding that we have a responsibility when it comes to how we take care of our bodies and the people
mm,
around us. And I have been so inspired after being taught by her when it looked at how I'm cooking for my family, and that is a big
mm.
part of healing. It's a big part of healing in a lifestyle, what
Yeah.
we're eating, what we're feeding our body, and making sure we understand what we have access to. So Krystle
Mhm.
is the person outside of just being my teacher, right? She is the
Mm,
person. That is what she does with her life. Whether it is her being a consultant for corporates and private, looking at consumer research, looking at how do you get things to people, whether she is producing and writing music and plays and productions
mhm.
with her partner, or whether she is leading her organization 504 the Horticulture, where she is the founder, and creating access and opportunities in neighborhoods for people of color so they can know the access
Yeah.
they have when it comes to being able to grow food and eat food. So I am so excited, Krystle. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm so honored that you would even invite me here, and thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Yeah, I'm just excited to talk. You just hit on all the things that I am passionate about and the things that I love to talk to people and share with people about. So I appreciate this platform and that you invited me here to talk about it.
Yes. Okay, so now we're gonna get all up in your business. I'm just kidding. We want the
Let's
lessons.
do it.
We want the
Do it.
wisdom, right? So the first thing I really would love for you to share with us is, when did you
Mhm.
first discover that gardening and cooking and working with plants could be a source of healing, like a source of medicine? 'Cause I feel like that's one of the biggest things I've
Mm.
learned from you.
So it's actually that's a great question, and the answer is sort of twofold. I think the cooking for me came first, and when I was growing up, my household, my mom can cook, and she's a great cook, but she was a very busy mom. She had me and my sister. She worked at our church on Sundays, and then Monday through Friday she worked at our school in administration, and then she would take on odd jobs, either outside of school or like she worked as a custodian after school, after being there all day for her 9 to 5. Then she would like change clothes and work cleaning up the school. And a lot of that was in service of paying for like my extracurricular activities, right? So I was doing the speech and debate, I was doing theater, I was going on trips. And that's how my mom was able to provide those things for me. And so her cooking was very much like convenience, right? There was a lot of hamburger helper. There was a lot of like canned green beans. There was a lot of like, Zatarain's dirty rice mix. And so when I first started cooking, my thought was, let me take a little something off of my mom's plate, right? It's a box. It's got instructions on the back of it. I'm a smart kid. I can figure out how to do this, right? And so I would just follow the instructions on the back of the box. And then, my mom would come home from her after school job and she'd be like, "You cooked?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just wanted to, make dinner so that when you got home, it was already here." And seeing the way that she responded to just having a meal waiting for her and just knowing that the only way that I could think of to take care of her, um, was to, offer her something to eat. And that just sparked something in me. And it wasn't until that point that my mom really started talking about how my great grandmother, who I'm named after, was like known for her cooking. She could make anything. She would just, whatever she had in the kitchen, whatever there was at the store on sale, she was going to get it and she was going to make something out of it. And she was a housekeeper uptown, for most of her life. And so the families that she worked for, just, they loved that about her. And our family loved that about her, just her ability to make something out of nothing. So I was like, well, if Mama Toots, that's what we called it, if Mama Toots could do it and I'm named after her, like, maybe I have that. And so I would start asking my mom for ingredients. I would watch TV shows, Yan Can Cook, PBS, Emerald, Paul Prudhomme. Like, I would just watch cooking shows and make stuff, to the point where, like, my mom would have her friends over for book club and she'd be like, can you make that stuffed manicotti that you made us for dinner, like for the book club? So that was a huge part of like how I started feeling, um, able to show people that I cared about them, and able to use what I would describe as an innate gift. The gardening didn't come until later, when I got pregnant with my son in 2012. And I got pregnant with him while I was overseas, and was eating really well, eating in places that don't allow the same chemicals and, processes that are allowed in American cuisine and American grocery stores. And, up until that point, I hadn't tried to get pregnant, but, I knew from conversations with my doctors that me getting pregnant in the first place, was probably going to be a little difficult, and me sustaining that pregnancy was going to take some effort. And so when I unexpectedly got pregnant during the time that I was living 6 months out of the country, I started to reflect on, well, what am I doing differently in this environment? What do I have access differently into this environment that's making this, that's made this change in the way that my body feels, comfortable and prepared and sustained and nourished enough to bring forth new life. So when I got back to the States, I was like, I have to take control over what I eat, and I would like to take control over what my son eats. I knew I was going to breastfeed, but I was like, so after that, what? After that, what do I feed him? And that's when I decided to garden. I said, well, if I'm going to nourish him from my body from as long as I possibly can, but let me learn how to grow food, so that when he starts to, like, eat, purees and like baby led weaning, that he'll eat stuff from my garden. And that's literally it. That's literally it.
Wowza. So when you had that realization, you were like, okay, how was that transition for you when you stopped breast milk and then he started eating like the baby purees and you was like, okay, we going straight from the garden. Do you feel like it was easier to keep him consistent with eating like that over time?
It ebbs and flows. I think when I was a lot of new moms, like, we have this guilt over, we make a plan and we have this, okay, this is what my baby's going to have access to, and then this is how we're going to raise them, and we won't do this and we will do that. And then life happens, and
Mhm.
life don't care about none of your plans. It really it really doesn't give a crap what you wrote down in that notebook, sis. Like, stuff is happening.
Right.
And, I just remember, getting to that point and going, a lot of the stuff that I wanted to feed him, I wasn't able to grow. We were living in Cincinnati at the time. I didn't have my own land. I was growing everything, and like, I'd waddled my pregnant butt down to the restaurant like district and asked all the restaurants, do you have a 5 gallon bucket that I can have, like a food grade plastic bucket? So everything that I was growing was just in
Mhm.
these small containers, right?
Mhm.
And it definitely wasn't enough to sustain him in totality. And so that's when I really started researching and learning about, like, what foods and from where to get them, where to source foods that I felt comfortable with him eating. Because I'd had this grand idea that, like, everything that I grew in the garden, I was just gonna, feed him that and supplement that to him. And it just wasn't realistic at that point in time. And I've struggled a lot with feeling guilty that my plan, like my grand scheme, hadn't panned out.
Mhm.
Um, but then also realizing that, a fed baby, is best, right?
Right.
And so the research that I would do, like where to get stuff, going to farmers markets, making sure that I purchase things that were organic as often as possible, knowing which foods are most likely to have, pesticides and chemicals used on them. So making sure those are 100% organic, and then like letting my budget dictate what else I was able to do in that area. And it really taught me a lot about giving myself grace, and it taught me a lot about making sure that even when I don't have all the resources that I want, to let my intentions guide how I use the resources that I have.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel that because I had the same thing. I was like, I'm gonna hand make all of their baby food, and I
Yeah.
was I was determined. I was like, I can do
Hmm.
this. I can do all the things. And then they hit two, and I was like, listen, Linda, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and bust out these rolled oats, and I'm just chop some things
Yep.
up, put it and go ahead and put it in there. We gonna call it a
Yeah.
day. Be like, oh,
Yeah.
goldfish, you know what? Yeah, we gonna go ahead and bust out these goldfish today.
Sure will. Sure
and,
will. Those
and
what
next week.
who made those? The pouches that we used to get. And it was a company that I worked with when we lived in the Bay Area, and they made the little baby pouches of like organic fruits and vegetables that were like already in the pouch or whatever. And I was like, yep,
Mhm. Yep.
adding
Like
those to the.
on a farm or something. I used to really like those when they were younger.
Oh yeah, yeah, those are great too.
I was
Yep.
like, ooh, yup.
Yeah.
And now they 5,
Yeah.
and they
No,
gonna
just to
go
make it
through the whole
happen.
5 before we get home. So,
They sure will. They sure
yep.
will. I didn't
So I
realize how
learned that
much babies ate.
we
That
underestimate.
was the
We
other
know.
thing. You can't grow enough fruit to feed a baby on your own land in berries alone.
I was just about to say that.
I have never, to this day, I've had multiple blueberry bushes. I have never grown enough blueberries at one time to satiate a 3-year-old who was like, and we did baby sign language, and
Mhm.
more. Oh my God! Like I need a pint of berries. So like stuff you have to do what you got to
Yeah.
do. I can't
Yeah.
produce all that. I'm not a farm. I'm not a farm yet. I'm
So
not a farm yet.
when that makes me wanna I know I got some other questions too, but that makes me think
No, sure.
about one thing you shared with us in class. And I would love for you to share with everyone how we talked about, you can't grow everything to sustain to a certain depending on your situation, right?
Yeah,
What are
yeah,
some tips that people can use when they look at where they might consider buying their produce and their fruit? Or what are some things they should kind of look out for when they're trying to
mm,
cook and eat fresh and really pay attention to their access? Like I know you shared some things with us about, thinking about timing of when the produce might have gotten to the store. And do you have any
absolutely,
like
absolutely.
1, 2 tips that you can share with everyone around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my number one thing that I try to impress upon people, there's been this sort of, I don't know, bougification of the farmers market, where, it's a cute little place to like take your cute little basket on a Saturday and like get a $17 loaf of bread and a coffee and just like, but really trying as best as you can, depending on where you live and what you have access to get your food directly from the source. I feel this way about cooked food, and I feel this way about produce and about meat and my protein. People's intentions, the intentions behind the hands that make whatever it is that you are going to put in or on your body makes a difference.
Yeah,
And I have
absolutely.
found that exactly. And then when a farmer has nurtured this tree to produce this fruit or these plants to produce, the produce that you're going to get, um, and they do it on a smaller scale, and they do it for the love and the legacy, and because it is a part of what is on their heart and their purpose to do. I feel like you can tell it tastes different, it moves through your body different, it nourishes you on different levels. And so the closer you can get to from the source, being able to see and lock eyes and make conversation with the human that produced the food that you are about to put in your body and your family's bodies. I prioritize that over anything else, right? So going to the farmers market, developing a relationship with the folks who've been there. You're going to get in season food because they're not traveling from miles and miles away. They're not mass producing to meet a quota or a need. You know, this vendor says I have to produce this amount of strawberries, every week or every quarter or every month, right? It is what looked good, what grew well, what works in our environment, what works in our ecosystem, in our zone at this time, and you're going to get more food that reflects that when you go to the source. You're also going to get a bigger variety of food because there are things that only make it to the grocery store because they travel well or they were picked before they were ripe. And so there's a 2 week time period from when they were picked off of the vine or off of the tree, and then they get to travel 2 weeks by, boat, plane, truck, get into the grocery store, and now it has the color of ripeness, but it hasn't actually had access to nutrients from the plant source to actually make sure that all of the antioxidants, all the vitamins, all the minerals that are supposed to be there when it gets to this level of maturity, it's lost 2 weeks of being able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas from a farmer's market, or actually going to an agricultural space and picking it yourself, it literally is there getting nutrients and being alive until you take it off of the plant and get it onto your plate, right? So that
Right.
makes a huge difference too, is how long it's actually taking it to get from the plant to your home and into your body.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. That's one of the things you shared with us in class, and I remember being like, "Oh my gosh!" And now it's like
Yeah,
I'm aware of it now, and so now
yeah,
I'm looking at produce when, if I have, if it's crunch time and I gotta go to, more of a like a store and I can't make it to
mhm,
the market, then I'm like, okay, now I'm looking at it from a different complete lens of what I want to select, how I'm selecting it. Um, and thank
yeah.
you also for sharing what you said because I want to share with everyone. It's like when you're on your healing journey, intention is everything.
It
Intention
is.
behind what you do,
It is.
intention behind how you think. Your food is included with that. And when I tell clients in that, like when I'm doing ancestral readings and they're like, your ancestors want you to start speaking over your food and start talking to your food because it's a living
Yep.
energy. They like, what? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
living energy, so that intention of even when you go out to eat, when you choose where you're gonna go, think about who's in the kitchen. Are they there just so they don't get fired, or are they there because
Right.
they love what they do? And
Yeah.
that is the
This is a part of their
energy.
purpose. This is a part of their, yeah, and they do
Yeah,
things with that
energy
intention.
is
Yep, absolutely.
transferred. So whatever
Yep.
energy, whatever mindset and space they're in when they're making that food, that's what's going in your
Yep.
body. And that energy
Yep.
is attaching itself to whatever wound you already got. So if they got a wound
Yeah.
and they fixing your food and they like, "Oh, I can't stand this job," and da 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 da, and then you go and
Yep.
you eat that meal and you find yourself grouchier than usual. It's an energy transfer. So really
Yeah,
being
take yourself back to like ninth grade physics, where we
yeah,
learned that there is no such thing as creating or destroying energy. It is literally just transferred. And when you realize that like everything that we do in this life carries its own energy, we are just transferring. We're a vessel, right? And so when
mhm,
you're moving that energy from you to someone else, and that's why I try to be mindful too when I'm but before I teach or before I cook for people, like not to like check where my energy is. Where am I right now? Do I need to do some
right,
grounding? Do I need to release some stuff? Do I need to like turn on some music and shake some stuff out real quick
mhm,
before I do whatever this is that I'm doing to give to somebody else? Because that energy transfers 100%.
yeah,
And I think that that's one of the things that we're not as cognizant of in Western society. But when you look through, any indigenous literature, any ancestral, exercises and activities, the transference of energy is always front and center before
Mhm.
you talk about any sort of rituals. Like, check
Right.
yourself and make sure that
Yep.
you're okay. And everybody's
Mhm.
not going to check themselves. So how do you make
Right.
sure that you're trying to, take in the best to the best of your ability? Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. That kinda, when we're thinking about that, I wanna kinda jump to, your amazing organization, Bible for the Horticulture. I
Mm,
had an opportunity to attend, one of your workshop sessions. So, y'all, so Crystal,
mm.
partnered with who was the therapist that you partnered with? She
Oh
was
yeah,
lovely.
so Chanel of Black Mental Health Matters, New Orleans Black Mental Health Matters. Chanel Baptiste. She is a good friend of the family. She's been friends of my husband. Her family have known each other for years and years, and the organization that she has is focused specifically on making sure that there is access to more mental health care for the Black community in New Orleans, and she does a fabulous job with that. Yeah.
Yes. So Crystal and Chanel, they partnered and they offered these series where they basically thought they correlated how things when it comes to gardening, taking care of your plant, how it's directly
Hmm.
mirroring the things that we experience in our day-to-day life. And it was a absolutely beautiful workshop. And so
Oh.
I want to ask you, how does your connection to doing this kind of work, how does it shape your
Mhm.
like your daily life role as being a mother, being a wife, being a teacher?
Mm.
So I'm always thinking about where you do. I can tell that you have so much lessons and wisdoms, even when you're teaching, when you're in conversation. How does that align in your? How does that show up for you? This work that you're doing. How does it show up for you in your personal life? Like, how does you integrate? What does that impact in life?
Yeah. Oh goodness. I think if I had to pick like the number one way that working with plants has really contributed to me, I think growing into a better person and then being able to be a better mother and wife and community member, I think being observant with intention though, observant with the intention to care and to nurture. There's a lot of things that sort of arrest our attention on a daily basis. And there's so many things that we can and do prioritize that kind of keep us in this like constant mode of like moving here, moving there, moving go over here. Now I gotta do this thing, whatever. And I've learned through caring for plants that it's not about and you get like these things that are like, okay, you like water your plant every 10 days, and then you like do da da da, and it's all of these sort of routine things. And that never worked for me. That never worked for I was a horrible house plant. Michael, once you if you came in the house, I am so sorry. Um it just wasn't gonna work because my attention was always diverted somewhere else and I wasn't observant. I wasn't looking for the signs that something was thriving versus needing care. I wasn't looking for the signs, the very early signs, before a plant would die, that it was a little thirsty or maybe needed some more sun. And or it was time to prune it, or it looks beautiful, it's so big, but it's outgrowing its space. It needs more space. And so, really, the number one thing that has been a huge transformational sort of learning for both caring for myself and caring for other people is that you have to slow down and and look. You have to slow down and really observe. You need to know who you are. You need to know what makes you feel good. You need to know what makes you feel whole. You don't need the same thing as everybody else, even if they're in close proximity, even if they are, growing right next to you. You might need something different to thrive. And my son needs things that are different than what I need to thrive. So we're all growing in this same space, right? But I need this amount of quiet time and this amount of time together and this kind of food and this kind of whatever to make me feel good. Well, if I'm observant, I can also tell, well, what does my son really need right now? He might not be able to tell me out of his mouth. He might not even know the words for it. But can I observe what it is that he needs and try to help provide it? In my relationship with my husband, can I observe that he's a little bit different today than he usually is, but you know what he hasn't had? XYZ. So let's go. Let me initiate taking him out for a date. Let me take the kid out for a day and let him have the house to himself for a little while. Let me ask if he wants to. There's a meal that he has that like after he eats it, he's always in a better mood and ready to talk about whatever's on his mind. Can I make that for him? And so just being observant and being willing to accept um what my plants tell me that they need. Now I know I just watered you. Why are you wilting right now? Don't matter if you just watered it. If it's thirsty right now, water it again, right? And then figure out why it keeps getting thirsty. Provide something for it so it doesn't end up in that stage of want or need as quickly because you're sustaining it. So that's been a huge, I mean, I think that's the gift that continues to give in every area of my life is like just being open to observation and then being willing to give people and places and projects what it is that they really need, even if it doesn't align with what I thought they should be needing at this point in time or what I expected they would need at this point in time. Um, has been a really beautiful lesson for me, I think. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. I love it. I love it. Thank you. So, before we wrap up, do you have any last nugget for anyone who they don't have any plants, they don't have any herbs, they don't have none of
Hmm.
the things yet at
Yeah.
home, but they want to start. They're curious. They're like,
Yeah.
I want to grow the herbs. I want to do the things, but also like,
Yeah.
where do I start? I'm sorry, say what now? What that's
Yeah.
how I felt. I was like, everything is dry, cut, and sifted. I'm grinding it all up, and it's going in a tincture, and it's going in a spiritual bath. And then when I started the residency, I was like, dang, it hit differently when it's fresh though. And I'm like,
It
oh, I
sure
can
does.
really
It
have
sure
to.
does.
It's different when you form a relationship with the plant, especially if you want to use
Yeah.
it as food or medicine. It's different when you form this relationship with it when it's still connected to the source. And then
Yeah.
you go to use it and work with it, whether it's food or medicine. So for
Yeah.
someone who's like, I'm inspired, but also don't know what I'm
Mhm.
doing.
Yeah. Where to
What
start? Where to get
where to
started?
start? Where to start?
Okay, before I answer that question, just because you just said that about like how much more potent things are when they're fresh or like you've had your hands on them or your intentions. Plants are so the compounds that are in individual plants are so multifaceted and complex that like if you go and look at an herbal book, right, and you go, what can you use rosemary for? It's a whole page, right? It's a whole page of things that it can be used for, which is great for just like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and just throw rosemary into my diet naturally because it's got a whole bunch of stuff. It'll just go in there and kind of figure out.
Mm,
But if you're growing a plant specifically for a specific tincture for a specific need, or because you want the specific property of it. I have found that being able to tell the plant like you're going to actually be medicine for helping people who have high blood pressure. That's my intention for you, and to speak that over that particular plant. Yeah, it can do a bunch of other stuff, but I don't know, in my mind and in my heart, I feel like letting it know, like, this is what your purpose is, this is what I'm going to use you for, helps it to be like, oh, okay, let me get that. Let me make sure that's like top of mind. Let me make sure that those compounds are the strongest. Let me make sure. And I know for certain when I'm thinking about like foraging and things of that nature, that the plants that I need always pop up when I need them. They can feel the energy of the environment around them and they go, "Oh, I think they could use some Biden's Pelosa." Had never
mhm,
had that in my garden ever, ever, ever before COVID. And it popped up and I was like, "Well, what is this?" And then I researched it and it's like, "Oh, wait, that's a cough medicine. It helps with respiratory healing." Bet. And then I made a bunch of tincture for my family and my friends using that plant that popped up just because it felt a need, right? And
mhm.
so, yeah, if you're growing something for a specific purpose, like speaking that intention to it and letting it know that's what you're going to be used for, I think it makes it even more powerful and intentional. Now,
Absolutely. I felt
where to
like
start?
that after, we did the work with the dandelion when I helped you, like, wash off the dandelion and we were gonna make a dandelion
Yeah.
salad. I know I'm not tripping. I swear, ever since we did that, I got nothing but dandelion growing in my backyard now. Like,
Yeah,
it was like,
yeah.
sis, you see me now, sis. You can use me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They know who their
absolutely.
friends are. They really
Yeah,
do. Plants are so communal, and I think that we often think of ourselves as humans, especially in Western society, as like living in nature or amongst nature, but we are nature. And animals and plants thrive in community, and we thrive in community, and not just community of other humans, but community of everything around us. And so
yeah.
when plants and animals get like sense your energy as friend, they will be like, oh, you know what? I'm going over here where, your girl is going to do me right. She going to make sure I get fed. She going to make sure I get protected. And then I'm going to be able to live out my purpose and not be seen as a weed or something to discard or something to be
Mhm.
trampled over. I get to live out my purpose if Krystle sees me, if Shanda sees me. And so they'll pop up and be like, hey, I heard, I heard
Yeah,
you be making medicine for the community.
I was
Yeah.
like, hi, sis. What you okay? I was like, all
Yeah.
right. And then I was like, you flowering over there. Let me hurry up and get you up so we can do a little one.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry.
I
Okay,
know.
yes.
I
So
love you. No, 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 no. Okay, but starting. Um, I love starting people with scrap gardens because I think when we think of like you go, oh, I want to start a garden and you start like looking up stuff, you go and hit the home and garden website and see the white picket fence and these big giant cattle panels that people are using. And that stuff is cute. Okay. And some of it is cute and useful, but a lot of it is cute, useful, and expensive. You don't have to spend money like that. You really don't. And so when I think about like how to get people started, especially when you don't have a lot to invest in it, or you like I was like, I don't really want to spend all this money and mess it up, and then I've wasted all this money, right? Scrap gardening is a wonderful way to not only be able to start um, actually growing what you eat, but also helps you to realize that everything that you eat is cyclical. So, for example, bell peppers. I tell people if you want to start, if you cook a lot in the South, particularly, you use bell peppers a lot, right? Buy some of the ones that are right. Get some red ones, get some orange ones. Other than the green ones, splurge a little bit at some point on like, let me buy some organic red and orange ones, right? Use those in your cooking, but in the inside, you have mature seeds. You have a packet of seeds that you would have bought for $3.59 somewhere. You have them free inside of that bell pepper. Save them, dry them, throw a couple in some dirt, see if you can get them to germinate. Strawberries, if your strawberries are starting to go bad, right, they're starting to get soft, oh, I don't want to eat them like this, throw some in some dirt and see if you can get them to sprout. The seeds are right there on the outside, right? Certain stuff like citrus, people always want to grow an apple tree, always want to grow a lemon tree. Those are harder to grow with the seeds that you're going to get from anything that you buy outside, like in the grocery store, because they're treated in such a way and those are hybrid plants. But a pepper, jalapenos, tomatoes, strawberries, things like that that you're eating anyway, throw them in some dirt and see what happens. They want to grow, they want to thrive. Find a spot in your house that has some in your yard that has some sun, a little bit of protection from the elements, and then water it, enough to keep the soil moist, like every 7 to 10 days, and see what you can get to pop up. I think when people start noticing that plants seeds want to germinate, plants want to grow. Your green onions, if you don't throw them away and you just put the bottom part in some water, they want to keep producing for you, right? It makes the idea of growing your own food feel less intimidating, and it removes some of the mysticism of it. And it allows you to be a part of the cycle where the life of that plant doesn't end with you, right? You're not the termination point of the life of that plant. You are just another point on its path to reproducing, creating another legacy, right? Creating another member of its family. And that to me was really inspiring when I started that way. Because I didn't buy seeds at first. I used anything that I could get from the house to grow. I would buy a cucumber on purpose so that I could take half of it and scoop the others, scrape the insides of the other half into the ground and see if I could get a plant to germinate from that. And then that way it feels less like making like a huge investment in this new hobby or new thing, and more like just like, I'm gonna take a little bit of what I already have, what I was already gonna spend money on, and make that work for me. And then once you get to that point, it kind of it becomes a little bit of an addiction. I like it. It's the one addiction that I've ever had that's actually been healthier for me than anything
Right.
else, right? You're like, what else can I grow?
Uh-huh.
Man, I made a whole tomato plant out of a cherry tomato. I think I can do anything. And that, you know what? I want to say this, Sean, that was the
Mhm.
biggest, when I think about life lessons, well,
Mhm.
on a personal note, just on a crystal level,
Yeah.
being able to grow things with my own hands and know
Mhm.
that I am a part of the natural world, that I am not impotent, that I'm not dependent upon, the powers that be to provide me with what is necessary to nourish my body and take care of my people. That resonated into so many other areas of my life where I allowed myself to say no to things that I'm going to say yes to it because I need this money, I need this check, I need this influence, I need this network. And
Mhm.
knowing that if I go in my backyard, I can make dinner tonight and I ain't got to worry about who liked me, who check came on time, who wants me on this project. That allowed me to have so much faith in myself as a provider, and so much faith in myself as an innovator, that I've been able to craft the rest of my life to feed me and to be a conduit for my purpose and my intentions, rather than doing a bunch of stuff that I need to do in order to provide for myself and my family. And so if all you get is a confidence boost out of the fact that you kept a plant alive, I'm here for it. That's all it needs. That all it needs to be. If you don't do all your groceries out of your backyard, but you just know this one basil plant, we like
We
this.
here.
I'm keeping that sucker alive, right? We
Yep.
here. I see it. It sees me.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's all you really need. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know I felt like that. My first houseplant was a couple years ago, was like a pothos. Um
Hmm.
and a
Hmm.
client gave it to me and she was like, landscaper gardener. She gave it to me and I am going to take care of you. I will get this right.
Yes.
Because before I was like, Lord, I ain't got it. And so it's really cool. I've had that plant for almost 4 years now, and I've been able to
Wow.
like split it, like propagate it. I have it in like four other
Yeah.
spaces. So I'm walking around the house, I'd be like, yeah,
I
yeah,
did that. I
right,
am Mother Nature.
right.
You know what I
Like
mean?
I am mothering, and I notice even when I talk to my plants, they be droopy. I be like, don't act brand new with me. Don't do that. You knew I had a
Yes.
bad week. Don't do that. And then they leaves kind of go up and
Yeah.
down. I'm like, see, we good. It's all right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That
yeah,
communication is important. It's key. Yep.
and it's helped me learn so much about. I always look at, especially my house plants. I look at where they're at as a mirror reflection of how well I'm taking care of myself. Because I
Yep.
notice when I'm like taking care of me and I feel nourished, I have the capacity to like check on them and make sure they have what they
Yep.
need. And then if one day I turn around and they like, sis, I don't know, this won't make it. I mean, I
Yep.
immediately like look within and go, oh my God, I'm exhausted.
Mm.
Like, I don't know if
Have I
I'm
been
coming
taking
back
care of
on.
myself? Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been taking care
Yep.
of myself. So I just think it's so profound on how we can look at nature as a reflection back, how we take care of nature, how we communicate
Yeah.
um, with plants, with our garden, even with the tree down the street at the park. Like it's all kind of
Yep.
the way it responds to us is mirroring back how we show up in relationships, mirroring back how
Yeah.
we show up in our relationship with ourselves. And being on a healing journey, really looking into gardening and stepping into that has helped me take my nutrition a lot seriously. Because
Yeah.
I used to bodybuild and I was the trainer with the big supplement case that was like this. That was just
Oh
like
yeah. Yeah.
popping them
Yeah.
back without the water, taking like the pre-workout. And so
Oh,
when I
bless.
yeah, like on the Stairmaster, like
You
this
was
my
out here.
Stairmaster. I got another hour.
Yeah.
And so when I stepped away, from all of that, and I was really being led to, like, "We need you to eat from the ground. Like, we need your channel clear.
Hmm.
We need you to really take this seriously." And I'd be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally fine." Drink protein shake and then try to eat like, I'll figure it out. And then when I took the time and did like a spiritual fast, and I was like, "Okay, y'all,
Mm.
Imma do it this time, I promise." And I really
Yeah.
started eating from the ground. When I saw the way my body responded to that, when I saw how
Yeah.
that shifted my energy, it shifted my business, it shifted
Yep.
my confidence in my relationship with myself. I was like, I tell people I always be talking to my ancestors. I was like, "Oh, that's why y'all had wanted me." And
Yep.
they looking at me
Yep.
like, "We've been waiting. We was trying to tell you. We've been waiting."
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, you know, and I say that to everyone that's listening. It's not like you gotta go gung ho. You can take it one step at a time. Like Crystal was
Yes.
saying, start with the scrap garden. Don't feel like you gotta do the most because that's when we talk ourselves out of it. Start
Yeah.
start
You
start
burn
eating.
yourself out that way, or you intimidate yourself that way, or overwhelm yourself that way. You know what I mean? If you can handle one plant right now, cool. If you can handle, taking some seeds out of a bell pepper and see if they sprout right now, cool. If your schedule is crazy and your kids got to eat, and all you can, like, I'm gonna grab some herbs that I'm growing in the kitchen and I'm gonna sprinkle that on top of whatever I was able to make for them for dinner tonight, because it's gonna
Mhm.
have to be this pasta and this jarred sauce. Okay, that's okay,
Yeah.
little bit by little bit, right? But then
Mhm.
as you add, though, to your point, as you add those little pieces in, you're going to find that your capacity starts to shift. You have a little bit more mental clarity. You have a little
Yeah.
bit more energy. You have a little bit more just ability to, like, your eyes open a little bit more. You know what? If I could do that over like a 30 minutes in a day and add that into my food, what is it? What if I took like a couple hours over the weekend and processed some organic tomatoes that I bought from the farmer's market into sauce, and then
Mhm.
can that sauce so that I can use it during the week to make it convenient and easy for me? You'll find those, but the capacity increases as you do the little steps. But if you
Yeah.
try to take everything out your pantry, right, and be like, this Rayo's, this ragu, and this dried pasta, we gonna do everything from scratch. Sis, you gonna burn out. You're gonna burn out, and y'all will
One
be eating McDonald's. You will be. You're gonna go right to the other
I'm
end of the
like, "Forget
spectrum,
it."
right? Because you're gonna be fighting for your life,
Yes.
trying to erase everything that you've been doing and replace it all overnight. Start
Mhm.
with the little pieces, right? You owe yourself that longevity, and you owe yourself that commitment, right? You owe
Mhm.
yourself to go little by little, because that is what's going to offer you the ability to recalibrate and rejuvenate yourself until you get to the point where this is where I want it to be. Yeah, you can't stop, you can't do all this overnight. It doesn't make any sense to you. And I've been gardening for now 13 years, and I don't eat only from my garden. I don't eat only from my backyard. And there are some weeks that are more difficult than others. And I go, hey, I gotta go buy this from the store. I'm gonna get me a little chicken. Then I'm gonna do a salad. I'm gonna grab something from out there. I'm gonna get some greens. What's in season out in my yard. Cool. It's cyclical. We live in community and society for a reason. There are resources that we have that we should be using, but you also need to allow yourself to incorporate these small changes and see how big of an impact they can have along the way of your journey, because it is a journey. It's not a switch. It's not
Right.
just I'm a new person tomorrow. It is a You got to travel it. You do
Yeah.
have to travel it. Yeah. Mm.
Crystal, thank you so much for joining
Thank you
me.
for having me. It always, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to be a teacher in this space, to like see myself as a teacher and have students who are so y'all made me so proud. Y'all have made me so happy to be with y'all and be in community with you guys. And having an opportunity to share always reminds me of what I know, and always puts me in the mindset to go deeper in my own practice. So I just want to say thank you for the gift of reflecting back to me my intentions and my purpose, and helping me to rejuvenate in me a passion for all the things that I know that I want to do with my life. And you guys just have poured back into me so beautifully. And I needed it, and I really appreciate it. I do.
Yes, we appreciate you. We appreciate you. Can you please share with everyone where they can find you, how they can connect to you. I'm gonna put it in the show notes as well, but for
Oh,
anyone that's
sure.
listening, yeah.
Yeah. So most of the stuff that I do with gardening and food production is going to be on my Instagram at 504. The number is 504 the horticulture on Instagram. And then I also have a TikTok of the same name where I do some longer form videos there as well. Yeah, that's where you can find me online. And then like as far as like cooking and stuff and making food with the stuff that I grow, that's going to be under my regular Instagram. That's browned underscore butter. I'll let you put the spelling of it in the notes because it is not spelled the way that you think it is. But yeah, so that's where I take like whenever I grow stuff in the garden and I cook, I usually put it up on that platform as well and integrate it that way. Yeah.
Awesome. Yay. Well, Crystal, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. I'm going to put all the ways to stay connected with Into Crystal in the show notes. I really hope
Awesome.
this episode blessed you just as much as it blessed me just sitting here listening. Okay. Y'all keep going, keep growing, keep healing, give yourself grace, and you got this. We'll
Hmm.
see y'all next time.
You do.